Hello, hello. Happy Monday. Thank you everyone for joining. Super excited about this call today. Coach Jess is hosting. And for those of you that saw the email talking through navigating the ups and downs, she's going to expound on that. We're going to talk through like some practical application and strategies and go from there. So I'll turn it over to Jess and yeah, go ahead, Jess. Let me know if you need help with your screen sharing. This is a first. This is a first for Jess on sharing of the screen. I think are you muted, Jess? No, you're not. I can't hear you though.
Uno momento.
Oh, no, now I can. You're good.
Okay.
That was weird.
And you can see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. If you have questions too, as we're moving along, feel free to show your faces and speak up. Or if you have any questions, you can put them in the question box, comments, as we go through. But in life, as a coach, as someone who's had coaches, it is important to look at the realities of there are going to be ups and downs, ebbs and flows of life. And sometimes I feel like it's as if we know this, but when we're in the lower part or the harder part or a stuck part or a plateau, it feels like it can feel like, why is this happening? Or it's more taking more time than we anticipated. And I think it's important too to remember in life, whatever your goals are, whatever you're working toward, we don't always have control over really anything in life. We can obviously choose into things that help us and help our wellness. But what we do have choice and what we do have control over is our response in what's happening to us in life. So when we're working toward a goal, we're working toward something specific, whether that's with coaching or outside of coaching or trying to create a new habit, and we have these little roadblocks that we feel like come up. I guess I would say that place, that spot is where we have the choice in, like, maybe some uncontrollables come in. I feel like very often, I don't know if other coaches can resonate with this, but I feel like oftentimes within the first couple weeks of coaching, I'll have a client that will like get sick, get the flu, get their child's cold, whatever. And it feels frustrating as to like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to be like sick during any of this time in my coaching because I wanted to make the most of it. And that's the reality of life, is that we're going to have things we can't control. That is, if a sickness happens, if an injury happens, like all of these things that we don't necessarily anticipate. But again, at that point, at that pause, when something comes on that maybe we don't wish for, not hoping for, comes along, we can choose to say, and this is where a coach can be helpful in saying, okay, you're sick. Obviously, we're going to like pull back on working out. We're going to pull back on these things, but we can be really aware of what is nourishment looking like. How are you getting your rest? How would you normally treat, being sick? Would you push through and say, I'm still going to go to the gym? Because that's not going to help. So it's switching up how we approach things when things come up that we maybe don't anticipate. And I think that pause can go so far when we're on our path to our goals and these things come up that we don't plan for, or we maybe have a timeline that would be most ideal for us. I think that's natural human nature to be like, oh, if this goal could be accomplished in X amount of time. But sometimes, again, there's things that come up that's out of our control. And so when we can pause in that moment and use things to help us in these peaks and valleys, that's going to help us manage through. And also when we can accept and know, like essentially plan for that, we will have times that we feel that we just aren't getting to our goals fast as we'd like to. Also really can help to pan out and say, okay, but what is looking different? How are my little choices? How are the little choices adding up to big change and coming back out of maybe something we didn't plan for or anticipate to help us along the way? Um, and I think that's part of cherishing the process is that when we can pan out and see those little victories adding up, because sometimes the day to day doesn't feel like, and I think these two could even go together, small wins count and cherishing the process. Because when we just focus on like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like the day to day to day, it can feel very similar. So often when I have clients who feel like they're really stuck or in a rut, I can say, let's pan out. Let's look at what this looked like 2 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, 3 months ago, depending on how long I've worked with a client. Um, and to help them say, oh yeah, I am making these choices that are much different. I am making lifestyle habit change, not just checking a box to hurry and get to a goal. And I think sometimes realizing that when some of these things take longer, remembering that it's repetition, repetition, repetition that helps to instill a new habit, a new way of doing your life, where as that becomes more of just your familiarity and regular routine, it also takes up less brain capacity. And it doesn't feel like it's as hard to do that. Whether it's like starting with tracking or making sure you're getting enough water, it can feel like a lot at first. And then as time goes on, those habits feel just more like part of your life.
Automated.
Like
And
you brush your teeth and you change your underwear and you like do these things that help you to feel good. And not just getting stuck in those ruts.
Jess, I was
So,
gonna say on that, I think what can be really hard for people in like that first month, maybe it's 2 weeks, maybe it's 4 weeks, maybe it's 4 months, honestly, depending on how long it takes to get a good system in place. It can feel like you're implementing those new habits that are going to give you, let's say, fat loss, right? These new habits are also going to benefit you from a health standpoint most often. If you're doing a more sustainable plan and working with our team, you would be. But in the beginning, you aren't going to be consistent with those habits, and they're going to require a lot of effort as you're figuring out how to integrate them into your life. So it can be really frustrating those first 4 weeks. Let's say you're focused on these habits, but you're only doing them 3 days of the week. So it's not enough to elicit change yet, but it feels like you're working really hard and not seeing any progress. Um, so I think it's important to remember too, like establishing that baseline and refining those systems so that you can get 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and have that be more automated. And so, if you put in the work to do that, 2 months goes by and now you're starting to see change because you have improved your consistency with those habits and frequency. And if you've done a good job of like integrating them into your life and creating systems for yourself with them, then those habits can be kind of on autopilot for you. So it takes certainly more effort in the beginning, and you might not see progress because consistency might not be there, but it might feel really hard. And that can suck to have it feel like, okay, life is way harder and I'm making a lot more sacrifice and I'm not seeing progress. But if you stick with it and continue to strategize and build consistency, then you'll be on autopilot and that progress can stack and you can see that, see the reward of your effort there. So like keep with it is and cherish the process. I think know that even though you're not seeing maybe immediate results, you're putting the building blocks in place so that you will over time.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
like that you put that first because I really think that's like the key to implementing new habits and not losing motivation.
Yeah, and we hear like change doesn't happen without change. And even if it's like, I know I want to make changes, I know I want to prioritize my health and wellness, I'm going to get a coach. It still is challenging because
Yeah.
you're changing, even if where you are living and how you're living in your regular routine and habits aren't ideal and that they're causing less than ideal long-term wellness impact, that's still your body's comfort zone. That's still your current autopilot. And so, just as Michaela is saying, when we are choosing into making change, it's kind of like this bumpy, rocky place of,
Mhm.
okay, I know I'm not where I want to be. And then when you're building that foundation and creating we got fireworks.
Oh,
I don't know where
that's
those came
exciting.
from. Bing. But when you're creating more of like that, it's like your body finding a new homeostasis, because if we are doing multiple stacks of things that are causing less than ideal habits, patterns, or we've been in this, way of living for a long time, that's still comfort. And so even switching to things that are better for us can feel very chaotic. It can feel like, I don't like this, it's not comfortable, it takes so much effort, and you stay consistent, and then that's where it doesn't feel like it takes so much capacity. It becomes, as Michaela is saying, much more autopilot. And remembering that every choice you make with intention, even if it takes time to build consistency, even if it's building from 2 days a week to 3 days to like, okay, I just do this every day now because I'm used to it, that is still adding up. It's still helping your overall bucket of wellness. It's still creating the pause to say, oh, I'm going to drink more water, creating the pause to say, how am I going to move my body today? Creating the pause to say, what do I need today, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? Because it's not just checking the boxes, it's about shifting into just overall well being. And then the beauty in that is the results that come with that. And I think that's what we do really well at Hungry Fitness collectively, is that we want you to feel good. We want energy to be available to do the things that you want to do in life, whatever that is for you. And with that, and taking care of ourselves and prioritizing ourselves, then the composition and the changes happen along with that. And once we create that foundation, we can dial those things up even more. When I have a client say like, okay, I'm ready to make even more of a change, that's exciting to me, because I can see that they're finding more of that foundation to say, okay, let's dial things a little bit more, because they have the capacity for that. So all of those things you're doing with intention, even if it's not 100% consistent initially, it's not going to be, it's still that building block to that larger goal. We acknowledge it. It's just like if our best friend was telling us, I've been working on these goals and I'm not doing it every day, but I'm doing it most days. We would say, awesome, good job. But to ourselves, we tend to be like, oh, you're not doing it every day. You're not doing it perfect. So treat yourself also like you would treat someone who you love and care about is sharing something important with you, and you would be encouraging and motivating and say, cool, yeah, applause, keep going, right? Not squashing them like a bug and saying, you're not doing good enough, right? That's what the coach is helpful for too. So also developing coping strategies that resonate with you, whether that's for like through movement, journaling, connecting with nature, as you are in a place of working to find more homeostasis, wellness, using things along the way that make the journey enjoyable. That, again, there's going to be the ups and downs, there's going to be ebbs and flows with emotion or progress or where you feel that you're at. And when you can do things to kind of get out of your head and be present, physical activity creates presence, journaling creates presence. And by presence, I mean being in the moment and acknowledging the things that you are doing well, the things that you're even making an effort to change, even if you feel like, hey, I'm not quite where I want to be, that's okay. You don't get on a bike. Well, I'm starting to say you don't get on a bike and just shoot off on your two-wheeler, but one of my kids did. So, but really, you're going to have some fall downs. It's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to like feel wobbly and weird and even emotional and like trying to make change. But when you can find presence and an outlet, and things that help you again with longevity of feeling well in life, those things can help you with being resilient through the process. And even along with resilience, just like enjoying the process more. And then I kind of touched on this one, but I think this one is very, very big and important, is practicing self-compassion. This is treating yourself like you would a loved one, a child, a friend, a sister, whoever that is trying to make change, do their best, and be encouraging, be supportive to your own self. And one thing that I think is important, I bring this up, is like, this is like a life thing, not just a working on goals thing. But ultimately, as we work on our relationship with self, we we are the ones who truly know what we need to feel validated. And what I mean by that is it can obviously feel good to have someone validate us, like, great job, or I see you, or, just to be witnessed, right? That feels good. But at the end of the day, we can be a huge validator for ourselves. And that comes with self-compassion of seeing ourselves, seeing our efforts, instead of expecting someone else, because I think we can do this too as humans, like like almost wanting someone else to applaud us. Like, we
Mhm.
can do that for ourselves. We can acknowledge at the end of the day our wins. I think gratitude comes with this too, but instead of like waiting for someone to validate us, be that validator for yourself. And noticing, because honestly with that too, we more fully understand the ins and outs, the complexities of what we're trying to do to make the change. Nobody else
No,
truly
yeah.
gets the nitty gritty of that. They don't, because we're living in with our perception, our lens, our efforts. And so we truly know out of anyone what, like, how to validate, if that makes sense. How to say, good job, I saw you today. Like, it sounds kind of funny, but like, this can be a journaling exercise. Like, I see you doing this, that, the other, whatever else you're doing. Good job, keep it up. I know this makes me feel good because blah, blah, blah. These are the things I'm experiencing. We can be a validator for ourselves instead of expecting someone to validate that for us. And a coach can be helpful in
Yeah.
kind of helping us see this process of, okay, maybe you don't feel like the scale's moving as much as you want it to, but look at all these things you're doing to incorporate wellness into your life. And I think we can do that on even a deeper level for ourselves once we get used to it, when we can look at that mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, like whole wellness, because we can fully get what we're doing there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think people just aren't used to doing that at all. And so it might feel really foreign at first. And so having a coach to give you that feedback initially might hopefully will help you to start to see more holistically, like all the things you're doing and how it's benefiting you. Um, your biofeedback, from how you feel to your energy levels to your digestion to your confidence. There's so much to be gained from taking care of your health and wellness. And, moving the needle towards your physical goals is great, but to not see all of the other positives is doing yourself a big disservice. And so I think those physical goals take time. So being more in tune with everything else happening on a physiological standpoint for yourself is where you're going to be able to, I think, like, keep that excitement in the process. Um, because you'll get to those physical goals. And if you haven't tuned into everything else that is benefiting you, like, the physical goals aren't going to be enough usually to sustain those habits that are going to benefit you in the long term. And so that's where you start to see like the yo-yo dieting happening for a lot of people, because you might get to that and then you'll go right back to old habits. So if
Mhm.
you really want to see sustainability in your progress, like when you reach those goals, maintaining those, then all of these things that Jess is talking about are what is like going to be the make or break, the game changer for you, to where you're going to, yeah, sustain those results and appreciate the work that it takes to do that, because that translates to a happier self too.
For sure, for sure. An example of that, a client comes to my mind of where, she was seeing progress, like she was seeing progress with her physical, but she's like, I cannot tell you like how much better I feel just actually connected to myself, paying attention to what I need. And I talk to my clients a lot about, what are you needing beyond, it's okay to have these goals of wanting to change body composition, but what are you also needing? What do you value? What's valuable to you that maybe isn't, when you can say, these are my values and what's important to me, and but you're not playing into those things because of just life gets busy and you're not paying attention to those. And, when clients start to say, like, I'm choosing to do things that are more playful, I'm choosing things that bring me joy, I'm choosing to say no to things that don't bring me joy, it all comes back to our relationship with self. And literally, every so many things in life, our other relationships are a mirror to our relationship with ourselves. Our food is a relationship is a mirror to our relationship with ourselves. So as we work on our relationship with self, as we live more in alignment with the things that are truly important to us, and that's going to look different for every person. As we work on those things and slow down and find connection with self and find validation within ourselves, it becomes, I guess, a more abundant process of, I can choose into, instead of like, I can't have this food if I want to lose weight. I can't have this. I can't have this. I can't have this. It can be, but what can I choose into to nourish my body? Right. It comes from a place of abundance and love instead of fear and hate. And that is so huge when it comes to the process, the progress, the and I say a lot too that slow is fast. When we can take time to work on the depth of the importance of relationship with self, then it starts to translate into food and choices there. And it's not such a, yeah, it just becomes more empowering instead of disempowering. And with that, I do think I'm talking a lot about like paying attention to what you need and also having support, having community. Um, a coach can be so helpful in this process, especially where, we have a lot of toxic diet culture around us. And so we've been blasted our whole lives, especially as women. Pull this, do this diet, try this, like over and over and over and just moralizing food. And so having a coach who is knowledgeable, who can help take the emotion out of it, who can help you to understand what it looks like to validate you and your needs and your progress is helpful. I would say also using your voice when you have people, especially people in your household, whether that's, a partner, if you, a spouse, whatever, voicing like, this is important to me, this is what I'm going to be working on, here's how I feel like you could support me. That's on us. Like, it's on us to ask for that. And it's yeah, I think that's also stepping into your power and using your voice of saying, like, this is what I'm going to do, this is why it's important to me. And it's a lot easier to recruit support when someone knows what we need than to just be like, I'm trying to do this and you're not supportive, right? Because we can get in that space too. And then also realizing that sometimes you're going to be on this path and there's going to be people in your life who just simply don't feel supportive in this. They'll question like, "Oh, you're doing another diet," or like whatever. But again, that's where we can choose who we want to share with, how we want to share things. If we need some space from that person who's constantly bringing us down, a friend comes to my mind who she was working with a coach and also simultaneously went to the gym with another friend. And she's like, yeah, every time I go work out with this friend, she's always questioning, why is your coach having you do that? Why are they having you do that? Like, just constantly questioning her. And I said, don't go work out with her. Like, just realizing when things aren't helping us, what's
Yeah.
supportive and what's not, and choosing, again, coming back to ourselves and saying, this isn't aligning with me, or this person is not supportive in the things that are actually really important to me. So maybe I need some space from that person. And, it could be as simple as saying, this is working out, or like, I'm working on these things and I need some space away from, I just am going to do it different. And that can really help us in our goals as well, in our process of knowing that there will be ups and downs, because we know there's going to be ups and downs. We don't need someone else to like, I guess the word that comes to my mind is like a naysayer of like
Yeah.
constantly questioning. There's definitely a difference of someone who's supportive and curious, or just like putting you down and, you know, whatever might be upsetting them. And so they question you in a way that doesn't feel supportive. Put some space between you and that person. And that can really help with your overall journey and prioritizing yourself. But so much of that comes back to a check-in. A check-in, you know, if you're working with a coach, you have a weekly check-in and potentially daily points of checking in, depending on what's going on. And I always encourage my clients, as they're transitioning out of coaching, keep checking in with yourself. For sure, on a weekly basis. What do I need? What are my supports? How am I going to execute this week? Like, a little bit deeper than a to-do list. But then on the day to day, what do I need? What didn't work today? What did work today? Doing those daily evaluations, it just because you fall down or you feel like you didn't have a day that was great. Well, what was going on? What did your intake look like? Did you get enough food? Again, coming up from a place to your own self of love and curiosity, instead of just feeling like, oh, I didn't do everything perfect, so I suck and this isn't working. And it takes time to have those long, like that longevity. It takes time to see that consistent effort and what it can do for us. And that's where all of these things, keeping these things in mind, for just knowing there's going to be ups and downs and expecting the ups and downs. And when we feel like we're falling down or we feel like something's not working, to assess that, say, what am I doing? Here's what's working. Here's what's not working. And that can be another great way to feel like, to reboost that determination of why that goal is important to us as well, that deeper why and how we're going to get there.
Yeah. Any questions on that? Anyone have any questions? Probably not. I know that questions aren't always something we do a lot of on here. Um, let's see. But I think, yeah, I mean, I think this is sometimes like a topic that can feel like practical application can feel a little bit overwhelming with. But I think what Jess said, if you aren't sure where to start and you want to, if and you want to have longevity in your health and fitness, start with a daily check-in, like asking yourself those questions. What went really well today? What did I struggle with? All right, cool. Like on the what went well, can I continue to refine that or automate that, or is that something I'm ready to build upon? And what did I struggle with? Is that something that I can think through a different strategy on? Like, is it the system that I have in place? Is it I'm not really setting myself up for success here with my like organization in my day? Like, what is causing the issue? And instead of going straight to self-shaming, like, how can we improve? How can I improve the system? Like, the people that are the most successful are the ones that have the best systems in place so that they can automate as much as possible, because we really do truly have a certain amount of like decisions we can each make in a day before we're just throwing in the towel and choosing what's easiest. And no one is perfect in that way. So how can you set yourself up so you don't have to make so many decisions in the day, especially on the things that just are harder? How can you automate things and make and stack your habits with the things that you're already doing? Just knowing that our change is hard and we want to resist change always. And so just those check-ins, I think, help so much with refining strategies and then also having that self-compassion as you do it too, because it takes a while to make change, and change is exciting though. And so even if you aren't successful, just coming back to also, you don't need to be perfect to see progress. Like shooting for 80%. That's, like think 24 to 26 days out of 30 that you are nailing your habits. And that sounds easy. It's not easy, but it doesn't need to be 30 out of 30. 30 out of 30 is where you're losing, you're giving up yourself. So I think remembering that too. that consistency is like doing something most of the time. And when you don't do it, like trying to figure out a better system and not detaching your emotion from that. So thank you, Jess. I think we could talk about this every single week and it would probably still be of value for everyone because there's always just more to consider with depending on where you're at with things. And so I think taking the time to work on that relationship with yourself will like translate to more results or just not even more results, but more fulfillment in every area of our life, right? We can feel that in all aspects of our life. So
Mm,
thank you for sharing.
yeah.
And hopefully you are all subscribed to calls. Um, and we're here if you have any questions. Thank you for joining today. And we'll see everyone next week. We will be doing our regular call time on Monday, but I understand it's spring break for a lot of people. So we'll record it. Also next Monday is our first day of our next mesocycle, our spring cycle, and we have some exciting surprises for that. We'll have a guest on next Monday's call and talking about some things we're going to be adding in regards to working on relationship with self, actually. So I'm really excited about it. You'll be getting more information on emails this week. Stay tuned for email Wednesday and an email Sunday, and then we'll kind of talk about the next phase, introduce a good friend of mine that's going to be kind of giving us some exciting things in the month of April. And so stay tuned for all of that and listen to the recording if you can't join us live. So hope everyone has a great week. Good luck with the last week of the winter cycle. Let us know if you had any PRs, and we're excited to cheer you guys on. Thanks, Jess. Thanks everyone for joining.
Mhm.
Talk to you soon.